It was February, the year 1922, and all Charlottesville was concerned about a Virginia Senate bill to move the UVA Medical School to Richmond. University President Dr. Edwin Alderman was in Richmond to oppose the bill. After a night of long and ardent debate, the Senate voted to keep the medical school in Charlottesville, and UVA students started a movement to celebrate the occasion by meeting Dr. Alderman when he returned to Charlottesville. On Friday, the 24th of February, Charlottesville Mayor Wheeler, townspeople, and several hundred students met Dr. Alderman's train at the Main Street station. Saul Kaufman and E.A. Yoakum watched from the Belmont Bridge as the students seated Dr. Alderman and other dignitaries in a tally-ho coach and formed a parade. A makeshift band appeared, and off they went, dignitaries and all, to the university corner, the students pulling the coach and the band blasting away enthusiastically. Saul Kaufman and E.A. Yoakum walked from the bridge, agreeing that Charlottesville definitely needed a municipal band. The idea for a municipal band was not new. A few bands had been organized. There was the old Citizens Band. The fire department had a band and a drum corps, but these bands did not satisfy Saul Kaufman's idea of a municipal band. Saul was marching to a different drummer. Saul secured the support of the Rotary Club, Chamber of Commerce, the Kiwanis, and the Young Men's Business Clubs to form the band. A joint committee of 12 men, 3 from each of these clubs, met on August the 17th, 1922, to get the band started. This committee would raise funds of $3,000 for uniform, instruments, music, and a salary of $50 per month for Harry Lowe, who was hired as bandmaster. More than 40 leading citizens, most with no musical experience, volunteered to become members of the band. Harry's first classes for his band at the C&A building would be in music theory only, pending purchase of their instruments. Harry Lowe, a World War I veteran, was born in Wales, United Kingdom. Harry arrived in Charlottesville as a member of a pit orchestra from New York City and decided to stay. He was recognized in Charlottesville as an accomplished musician and musical director, playing and directing in the Firemen's Band, the Crozet Woodman's Band, played French horn with the University of Virginia Orchestra, and was involved in many other musical endeavors. Harry had a great personality and was loved and admired by everyone.
We used to have the road shows, and they had the orchestra in the pit, and of course it was a live sort of operetta affair. You know, they did Old Man River and things like that. And he went to Charlottesville playing in the orchestra and stayed in Charlottesville. He played, I think, the bass fiddle. The organ, too. He played beautiful organ at the Jewish synagogue on Saturday because they did not have a tenor, so he sang there. Wow. And then directed the choir at Christ Church on Sunday.
Harry must have been brimming with confidence. He had volunteered to produce a band in 6 months. No instruments, no musicians, no music, and no money. Records of the band include Harry's order for 37 copies of Philip Egner's Emergency Band Book, which may have reflected Harry's thinking. Meanwhile, the need for funds to buy instruments became critical, as the public was slow to support the band with donations. This crisis was met head-on when several men guaranteed a bank loan of $5,500. Payne's Music Store was awarded the contract for the instruments. Finally, all the instruments arrived, and the Daily Progress published Harry's warning of unusual noises soon to be heard in the city as the budding musicians started to learn their instruments. The practice rooms resounded with discords as Harry and his assistant conductor, Sam Arundale, rushed from room to room, working with the men to translate theory to music. It is quite probable complaints about the noise were heard, for the band soon moved to the armory. The band continued to work hard under Harry's leadership, and the Daily Progress, always a band booster, continued to give the band above-the-fold front-page publicity. The governing board must have been well pleased with the band's progress, as they held a smoker to entertain the band members and honor Harry. Mr. Yoakum praised Harry and presented him with a gold piece of large denomination as a token of the board's appreciation. The band's first public appearance came on the evening of Tuesday, the 10th of April, 1923. The band marched from the old armory, passing by Saul Kaufman's store, to Pence's corner at 2nd and Main Streets. The band played for about 30 minutes, performing some difficult numbers. a large crowd gathered and cheered and applauded the band. This performance validated Harry's promise to have the band ready to play publicly in 6 months. Harry had kept his promise with 14 days to spare. The day of celebration for the band arrived when the band gave its presentation concert at Lee Park. This concert would formally present the band to the city of Charlottesville and officially become the municipal band. Overflow crowds in Lee Park gathered well before performance time, and people hung from windows and other vantage points to hear the new band. The program opened with an invocation and a community sing-along of America, followed by a short speech by Saul Collins.
Mr. Mayor, here is your band. We have tried to build it well. We now turn over to the city of Charlottesville the responsibility to support it and see that it survives.
Mayor Morris responded and accepted the band on behalf of the city of Charlottesville. The band played and the crowd listened and applauded Sousa's King Cotton March and other selections. Quoting the Daily Progress, the band made a pleasing picture and a spotlight mounted on the cornice of the library was thrown upon the scene. The concert was a great success, and in the words of Mr. Case, "Men of the municipal band, we congratulate you on the splendid results you have achieved." The band and everyone who had worked so hard to make this day possible must have experienced great pride and sense of accomplishment. The band was off to a running start, and a few months later proudly posed with the fire department as an official part of the city of Charlottesville. After the presentation ceremony, the band finished out the year by playing 31 engagements, an amazing number for this newly formed band. In August of 1924, during the annual band competition in connection with the Firemen's Convention at Harrisonburg, the band took first place over entries from Alexandria, Covington, Bridgewater, Stanton, and others. There is little doubt Harry Lowe's showmanship as well as his musical talents played a great part in the band's successes. Harry was noted for playing his cornet while directing the band and playing any part the band members were not able to play. In October 1924, at the band's annual banquet, the board recognized Harry's contribution by presenting him with a silver cornet engraved with the date of the Harrisonburg contest, 20 August 1924. Years later, Harry Lowe's widow returned the cornet to the municipal band as a memento of Harry's leadership. The story doesn't quite end there. Jim Simmons, present director of the band, remembers.
And somehow or other that instrument disappeared. I received a telephone call about a year or so after this event happened from a band member who lived in Waynesboro and told me that he had been in an antique shop on Afton Mountain and saw Harry Lowe's cornet up there. Well, my wife and I, Betty, immediately got in the car and we drove up to this antique shop on Afton Mountain. Went in and sure enough there the cornet sat on the table. I spoke with a young lady who was attending shop that day and asked her if the owner or the manager was there, and she said he would be back shortly. When he did come back, I talked to him and told him what the situation was and that the cornet really belonged to the Charlottesville Municipal Band. He said, well, he had paid $35 to get the cornet, and I said, fine, I'm going to give you a check for $35 because we want this instrument back. And of course he wanted a little more money than that, but I told him I thought $35 was a fair price. And so we agreed, and I got the instrument, we took it back, and it's now in the possession of the band.
The band played at every opportunity: the UVA lawn, football games, radio broadcasts, boxing matches, and traveled to many cities: Dallas, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, to name a few. Starting in 1924, the town's song was sung by the band wherever they appeared. I think one can see the pride in the members' faces as they performed with their band. In 1940, Harry Lowe retired, and Ernest Carr led the band during the winter of 1940. During the next 57 years, the band has had only 4 conductors.
My real recollections of directors begins in 1941 when Emil Rader, a retired clarinetist of the official U.S. Marine Band in Washington, came to Charlottesville and took over the band, and he served that position from 1941 to 1950. He was an old school musician and relied very heavily on transcriptions of classical music to be programmed for concerts.
During World War II, during the early 40s, we lost a lot of our members. And the director at that time was a fellow named Emil Rader. He had been the first clarinetist with the United States Marine Band in Washington. Excellent, real fine musician. But the band just dwindled down to practically nothing. It kept going, but we had very few members. And you know, you'd come to band rehearsal and there'd be 12 people there or something like that. And then trying to, you know, give concerts with that smaller group was almost impossible. But we struggled on. And then, of course, when the war was over, everybody started coming back who had played in the band before.
Marlon Brown succeeded Emil Rader, served from 1950 to 1957. Marlon was a former public school band director out in Iowa, came to Charlottesville, actually working for the Centel Telephone Company. Marlon was an excellent musician, and a very fine, accomplished clarinetist in his own right. And it was during Marlon's regime that the band began to become an official part of the volunteer fire company and traveled with the fire company each summer when it went to its state firemen's conventions. It was during this period of time that the band participated in marching contests as well as concert contests, and frequently came home with first place trophies in both of those events. Following Marlon Brown, Sharon Hoos took over in 1957. Of course, Sharon was the very popular director of the Lane High School Band. I had started teaching at Albemarle High School in 1956. Sharon was my former band director, and he and I, through the years, became very, very close, warm personal friends as well as personal colleagues. Sharon really raised the level of musicianship of the organization while he was in the band, and it was at his behest that the first females were allowed to come into the band in 1957.
In high school, and Sharon Hoos was my director then, and Sharon later became the band director of the Municipal Band, and at that time he was very interested in women becoming members of the band, so I remember he invited us the summer after I graduated from high school, which was 1956, to just come and sit in and play in the band. Well, that was quite an experience, and because it was just full of all these, we thought, old men, and they sat around smoking and playing, and they'd take their cigarettes and kind of put them in the crook of the stand when they weren't playing, and it was quite different than it is now. We were a little intimidated by that crowd.
I was in the first group of women to join the band. I think it was for May or June. I got a letter from Mr. Hoos, who had been my former band director at Lane High School, inviting me to join the all-male municipal band. And it was really a thrill to be able to play again, because I had laid my clarinet down for 6 years. Came in the band with all men in the band. Urban Maine was just nice as they could be. I just felt like I was at home. Walter Crenshaw was drum major when I first came into the band, but the women didn't march for quite a few years. It was just the men march and the women played in the concert competition.
When I assumed the directorship of the organization in 1980, it was with some sadness because my dear friend and colleague for many, many years, Sharon Hoos, was stepping down because of ill health. I guess the first thing I thought about after I was named by the board of directors to become the next director was exactly what it was that I ought to do with the band or should do with the band. And so I took some time to look a little bit into the history, to look at some of the people in the organization whom I had the great personal pleasure of knowing and working with, to determine some of the things that we ought to do. I'll look at the library and begin to start adding new compositions to the library, music that would offer some challenge to the musician looking at new music, but still pulling out some of the old things that were traditional favorites of band members and the audience alike. And I decided, well, we need to change the programming a bit in order to play to our audiences, as it were. And so we sort of added that mix in, and first thing we knew, we were beginning to attract larger audiences down at the central place on the mall.
Jim, I think at that time, brought in vibrance to the band that we had lacked for several years, because you become, not because of the efficiency or because of the talents or the attributes of the previous director, but because of being new. There's something new.
I remember Jimmy telling me up front after coming a few times, he says, we're going to make a real musician out of you. And that was an encouragement, and it was true. And he really helps all of the members to just do their best and to reach their potential.
I added a series of concerts on an annual basis. We have an annual spring concert, which we always play in the third week in April. Always a well-attended concert. We added a winter concert, which is now our annual Christmas concert. And of course, the big drawing factor at that particular concert was the snow machine that Joe Goldsmith and some of the members of the band built. It's a 40-foot trough hanging over the stage area of the Lane Auditorium there in the county office building, and it is loaded with snow that came from some of the studios in Hollywood. And whenever we play Irving Berlin's White Christmas, then of course it snows at a certain point. In 1976, there were two events that just really were tops as far as I'm concerned. One was the visit here by the Queen of England. We had the great pleasure of playing for her and her entourage on the lawn at the University of Virginia. And then shortly thereafter, President Ford came to Monticello to speak.
One funny thing was over at the on the lawn when we played for Queen Elizabeth's appearance. And we are accustomed, when they say, now we will have the national anthem, to break into the Star-Spangled Banner. Well, in this case, with the Queen there, it was to have been God Save the Queen, or the melody of America. And some of the bands started to play the Star-Spangled Banner, while others started to play God Save the Queen, and there was a terrible noise for about 3 or 4 beats until people caught on, and then it was all right.
The national anthem.
I think the band is strong. I think it's vigorous. I think we're very blessed to have the kinds of people that we have in the band. We have very dedicated people in the organization who love to come to rehearsals. Our attendance at rehearsals stays at a consistent 50 to 55 to 60 people every Tuesday night.
It is a teamwork activity, And when we're playing, we all have to subject our egos to Jimmy's, who in turn has subjected his to what he feels the composer has put on paper that he wants us to reproduce. So we have to go along with whatever he is directing the group to do. And when you feel that you're a part of something that is that big and comes out sounding that good, it's quite satisfying.
You've got 2Fs written on the trill right. A little bit already. 1, 2, and make it 3.
And I've been playing in the municipal band for well over 50 years. It's hard to believe when I think back. My father was a member of the band, and my son has been a member of the band, and I'm a member of the band, so it's covered 3 generations. They had a bandstand down in Lee Park. It was a big old wooden structure there that backed up to Market Street. And at the time, we lived at the Altamont Apartments, was just a few blocks away from the park. And my mother would take a blanket and we'd go down and sit on the grass and listen to the band. My dad played in the band. He became a member in the early 20s. He wasn't a charter member, but when he first moved to Charlottesville, he became a member of the band. That was about 1923 or 24, just after the band had been organized. But the band has really been a great experience for me, and I'm 70 years old, and I'd like to hang in there for another 10 years if I can, if everything holds together.
I joined in Municipal Band in 1957, and when I joined, it was down the old Army on Market Street. We rehearsed down there every Tuesday night. My father was one of the first original members in the band, in in 1922. You know, he talked at one time about he met John Philip Sousa came through Crozet, and he was on a tour, and Sousa wanted some buttermilk, so Daddy got him a gallon of buttermilk, and he met John Philip Sousa, and he reminded me of that story too, because I always like play Sousa March, you know. In the band, the city bought, there was a upright tuba, and they bought it must have been about 10, 15 years ago, and I think it was $850 then, and this year I found the same instrument at $6,000, with the same type, and I what a trombone is now, so my wife bought me a mouthpiece 2 years ago, and that's $50. That's pretty close as I'll get to a tuba, I reckon, but I enjoy playing it. The last few years, well, we finished marching in this band, you know, just beat me to death on these marches, you know. I'm about to stay bruised with it next week, you know, but I enjoy it, you know. It was a lot of fun, you know. And I want to keep on playing as long as I can, you know. I told Jimmy, as long as I got breath and teeth, I'll make it. I said, as long as I get my laugh, I'm going to play it, I told him.
I joined the band in 1963 or 2. My father was a member of the band in 1936-37. I've tried to support the band. I was president of the band from starting somewhere around 1990 or 91 for 5 years. One of my proudest points was that we've had a dream of owning our own place or having a rehearsal hall or a concert place to practice or play. And we finally, in 1991, purchased some land, and we started the fund drive to build a arts place where people can go and rehearse. But I've enjoyed the music. Actually, I think I'm a better musician today as I was than I was when I was 17, 18, 19, and 20. I've learned a lot, and I'm practicing more, and I thank the Municipal Band for all of that.
Then in 1984, I became the first woman president of the group, and I'm really proud of that. But I'm now president again, and this is my 4th year of my term, and then I'll have to get off the board for a year. I didn't know what to study in college, and my father said, well, what do you like about high school? And I said, well, I like band and boys. Well, we couldn't major in boys, so I majored in band, or music. Talented people in the band. One in particular is Fred O'Brien. He's our principal clarinetist. He's done a lot of arranging for the band. Whenever we have our Christmas concerts, we play an arrangement that he did of Silent Night, which is really lovely, and people look forward to hearing that every year.
He came to me and asked me if I would arrange Silent Night as an opening piece for the group. And of course it's done so that as each section of instruments enters, you know, their stand lights get turned on. So. And it, somewhat to my surprise, has been very popular, and they keep doing it year after year. Well, I came into the band in April of 1979. I honestly never had any real musical training other than clarinet lessons. In other words, I don't have any theory, I don't have any harmony and counterpoint and all those things that you would get as a music major. Is much better than a lot of community bands. We have a very good instrumentation. This one, with its long history and tradition, it's built up a good musicianship as a whole. And if you don't play pretty well, you don't get in.
I guess the first thing that I remember about the Municipal Band is when I was about, 11 or 12 years old. My parents took me to the concert up at Lee Park. But I can remember sitting in front of the band about 10 or 15 feet away. And you know, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. When I was 15, I was invited to come and play in the municipal band. That was 1959. So, you know, this year is 1997, so I think that would probably mean that I've been in the band, I guess, 38 years. I also play, you know, besides playing in the Charlottesville Municipal Band, I play in the, of course, in the horn section of the band, but I play in the Charlottesville Horn Club. And one of the places we've been invited to go several times, we go to Stone Robinson School to perform, and we're very well received. We get a lot of questions. One of the horn players in our group, John Mason, is very good at explaining the operation of the French horn and how and its history and where it came from. But we've enjoyed playing for the kids out there. We play in several of the county schools.
And so he took me to the municipal band practice, and that was in '67, and I've been going ever since. Oh, okay. And then when President Ford came, security was even higher, and the security men were really bad-tempered, mean kinds, you know. And there was one in particular who was not nice at all. And Sonny Sampson, he said, just watch this. And he went, and he had a Windex spray bottle that he sprayed his trombone with. And the security man was standing with his back to us. And Sonny got the Windex bottle and sprayed his neck, and achoo, sneezed like that. And then we all turned around and we pretended that we were doing things, you know, cleaning our instruments, and I thought that was fun.
Okay.
I'm working on this watercolor right now. This is Joey, who was the drum major then. And Jimmy playing the clarinet on the end. And this is John Snook, who is no longer with us. So I need to do some more work on it, but I hope to finish it soon.
I was a university student and had to come to school in September of 1952, and in January of '53 I came to rehearsal, and Marlon Brown was the conductor, and Dallas Bailey was first trombone player, and I played next to Bill Huffer and Carmen Nolford and J.C. Larimore, Jack Larimore's daddy. And I played for 4 years as a probationary member or as an associate member of the band, and Dallas Bailey finally said, well, we would like you to become an elected member, and that was, I believe, in 1956. You're a university, Dallas said, you're a university student, we don't exactly trust them, and so that took that long. Give a year of service, and then you get to play. You get to be an elected member, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what happened. You played a year and you were elected member. I mean, right away.
I played clarinet. When I first started playing, I wanted to play trombone, but back in those days, girls didn't usually play trombone, and so they said, well, you could play clarinet or flute, and so I played clarinet. The women didn't play in the parades until just before the parades ended. So I got playing a couple of parades. That's one of the things I've always enjoyed is the marches, and I did enjoy playing in those parades. I would marry him if I could play in the municipal band.
Lived in Prophet, Virginia, and there was a family out there interested in music, and they wanted to get a band started in the community, so they hired Mr. Elmer Rader, and I believe that was about the same time that Mr. Rader was conductor of the Charlottesville Municipal Band, although I'm not absolutely sure about that. But Mr. Rader came out, and he brought a lot of instruments that he had gotten from Stacy's music store on loan, and he brought them out, and everybody lined up, and Mr. Rader looked at people, and he said, well, I think I'll try you on trumpet. And he'd take somebody else and said, well, you look like you could play the clarinet. And so everybody got an instrument, and after a while we had a band going, and that's really where I got my start for music. Back Mr. Rader, I remember, liked to chew tobacco, and he would sit and chew his tobacco while I was playing for him, and then he would stop, and he would either use a Coke bottle, or sometimes he would go to the door, and then on occasion my father would get Mr. Rader a beer, and but we learned a lot in those days. And summertime, the band members wore the white trousers, and after I joined the band in 1958, I never saw those white trousers. They had switched completely to the dark blue uniform, which was the uniform that I have on here now. And it was mainly used during the 50s and the 60s, and after that time the band could no longer afford to buy for the number of people. The band had grown so large that we could not afford to buy these expensive uniforms anymore. So then we went to just dark trousers and white shirts. All the people in the band are my friends, and some of my dearest friends are in the Charlottesville Municipal Band.
The string bass, and I've been in the band since 1968 when I was a senior in high school. I've played with church groups, different church groups around town for Christmas and Easter, things like that. For musical, the theater groups that do musicals, I've had the opportunity to play for those. Groups like Act One, Live Arts, Albemarle Children's Theater, Jefferson Community Theater Company. I got to march with the band at the Firemen's Convention. I got to play the cymbals. Nothing so rare about that, except I never played cymbals before. And they started up here, but by the end of the concert, they were down by my side because they were so heavy. They're concert-sized cymbals, and they're heavier.
In January of 1975, I had the honor of being the first woman to be elected to the Municipal Band Board of Directors. I remember at the time I was utterly stunned, and yet very, very thrilled and excited. And we went into the meeting afterwards, and the board selects its own officers. And they elected me secretary right off the bat. And that really got me into the band and feeling as though I was really a part of it. And so I was asked to become librarian. And that's something else that made me really feel I belonged with the organization. I'd always wanted to be a symphony librarian, but it was totally out of reach. And this is the next best thing, and I have really enjoyed working with the library. We have over 900 concert-sized compositions, over about 100 medium-sized compositions called octavo size, and over 150, I'm sure, march size. A lot to me. It has been my social outlet. I'm not a party type. I do not enjoy casual chit-chat, but I like people and I like to work with them toward a common goal, and the municipal band has fulfilled that need for me.
I just feel really close to this band because my uncle was in the band, probably from 1930-ish all the way to 1960. And him and Jimmy Simmons were really the best of friends. And after meeting Jimmy and him finding out that I was Bill Huffer's niece, he really embraced me, and all the band members made me feel very welcome. And so I joined the band, and I've been coming really regularly ever since. Jack Foster passed away this year, and so it's been kind of lonesome driving over by myself. I come from Stanton, which is about 50 miles. Actually, I live out in the little town of Mount Sydney. So coming up, it takes me a good 45 minutes to also come on Sunday mornings and play with the First Baptist Orchestra in Charlottesville. But this is my #1 priority, and even my church activities, I'm very involved in church activities, but you know, on Tuesday nights I come to Charlottesville. That's just the way it is.
I started playing the clarinet in the 6th grade in public schools, Starkville, Mississippi. Became very interested in it and practiced diligently, and was in all-state band 3 years and played through high school, then went to college, played in the university band, and after graduation and graduate school I put the clarinet away for 3 years, and then after 2 years here I played in the University of Virginia Orchestra for 3 years. Then we had 2 sons and I put it away again for 19 years. And when the younger son was a junior in high school, my wife said it's time to take the clarinet out again. And I joined this band 6 years ago at that time. So I've played a fair bit at different periods in my life, and I enjoy it very much. I also play in pit orchestras for musicals from time to time whenever they ask me to, and I enjoy that a lot too. I find at this stage in my life it's very important to have something to do outside of my university academic life. And since the clarinet has been an important part of my life up to now, it continues to be an important part. I believe very strongly in the public school music program. I think funding should be increased, not cut, for public school music programs, because a lot of kids like me would never have had the opportunity that I've had if it weren't for public school music programs. And I encourage those that I get a chance to talk to take it seriously, because when you get to be my age, you can still play. I think this band has a future because of its strength and because of the large number of people that are associated with it. There are other good municipal bands in the country, but they're not every little town has a good municipal band like this.
1981, and I was kind of overwhelmed when I saw the size of this band and complete instrumentation. 1986 or 87, and he told Jimmy that I was a trumpet player, and Jimmy said, well fine, if you're interested, why don't you come to the next rehearsal? It was that easy. So I've been here since. Did recording of On the Bandwagon, which is a circus march that I wrote when I was in the Air Force, and the 661st Air Force Band recorded that for me. I got really friendly with Wayne Clark, and I let him hear that tape, and he thought it was good, so he let Jimmy hear it, and he thought it was good. In short, the band worked really, really hard on it about this time last year, and it was on last year's spring concert.
My name's Steve Wayman, and I've been a member of the band since July of 1977 when I moved to Charlottesville. When I was in high school, I sort of fell in love with band, and so decided that I was going to make band directing and music my career. And I pursued a major in music. I received my Bachelor of Arts in Music Education in 1975. I'm presently playing first chair with the group and also serve as the group's assistant conductor. So been on the board for a total of 3 tours of duty. I guess one of my great joys besides playing with the band is having the opportunity to conduct the group. During the day, I'm a high school band director currently, and there's a lot of new and exciting band music out there. And one of the things that I think that we should do is to constantly challenge the members, especially some of the folks who've been in the group for a long period of time. You know, I would hope that someday to have the opportunity and the honor to be able to conduct this group, to be able to follow folks like Sharon and Jimmy, would be both an honor and a challenge.
I certainly think that some of the grand people of the organization, like Dallas Bailey, Guy Vine, Jack Larimore Sr., Emmett Pack, people like Cecil Taylor in the band, Mason Bibb and Marvin Bob, and Stan and Ron Mikulski, and many, many others. But I think it was their love and their devotion to this organization and their dedication to the purposes of the band that really stand out in my mind. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do now is to continue that sort of thing with newer people who are coming into the band almost yearly. I think we're very blessed with the fact that we've got several fine musicians in the band who teach in the local public schools, people like Steve Lehman, our assistant conductor. Steve is a fine band director at Weston Albemarle High School. Gary Fagan, the fine band director at Henley Middle School. Gary is a budding young composer whose music we have the great pleasure of playing from time to time. And some other things that we're interested in right now, working very hard at, of course, is raising funds to build a municipal arts center on a piece of property that the band owns on 5th Street Extended here in Charlottesville. We're getting closer and closer. We need a little over another $100,000, and when we get that money in hand, then we're going to break ground and get that building up and underway and running. That will provide a permanent home for the organization, as well as rehearsal space and meeting space for other arts organizations here in this community. And so I would say that for the next 75, 100, 125, 150 years, whatever it is, I think this band will continue because of the kind of support it has from almost every corner in the total community. And I think the people in the organization will continue to strive to do all they possibly can to continue to contribute to the quality of life in this community.